Welcome to another OCD Recovery Instagram Live. I was on here earlier today and I was doing a question and answers, but I went a little bit off topic, covering different themes of OCD. But I think what I like to do is I want to cover the main themes, the ones I haven't already done on here, and I want to focus on just those instead of doing it as a question and answer format. But this evening I'm going to do another question and answer format because I know you've got a lot of questions, and because I did a post the other day saying that there's roughly 3 to 4 month waiting list for the one-to-one sessions, not for the group sessions, but just for the one-to-one sessions. I know a lot of people have questions that they want to ask, and because of the amount of requests and emails, I haven't been able to. I've not been able to do that for a while, to respond to individual questions about OCD, because I get hundreds of those a day, and the nature of OCD is that people obviously ask lots of questions branching off the first question, so that will go on. So for any questions, I always say to people, ask them in these Instagram lives, ask them on the Q&As that I do on here. As a sort of just to submit a question and I'll answer it, and as well as on the lives. So I thought I would do this Q&A on here and stay on here for about half an hour and cover all the questions I can, so that anyone who's been thinking of anything to ask this week, I can get it covered with you. So if you just put them across here along the bottom, I will cover them. I can't do broad topics like what is unconditional self-acceptance, what is OCD recovery, what is how do I get better from POCD. It's too broad. But if you ask questions that are sort of on variations of that, then I can answer that. Is OCD hereditary or caused by trauma? The science is out on it. The science would say at the moment that it's most likely a combination of genetics and environment. Whether environment triggers something, they're not 100% sure on that as of yet. I would probably go with, my guess would be that OCD sufferers have a genetic predisposition that could be triggered by an environmental factor, but usually there is always a gene present that's there. Now, I know you'll hear people say, oh, OCD recovery is just some habit that you can sort of get out of. I very much doubt it's some kind of habit that you can, I very much doubt, it isn't. It's not just a habit you can get out of. You'll always have OCD. You're not going to get rid of having OCD, because that cycle will always be there in some format or another. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to get better. You get better, which is the absence of suffering. But what you will find is that you will still always have that tendency to go back into working it out in a OCD type pattern, and you can easily go down that. The same as in my kitchen here. If I went to the hob and I was checked it was off, and I just went back and forth to check it was off, maybe not back and forth, but say I just did a check to see if it was off, I could very easily go back into a cycle of checking that if I didn't watch it. So you've got to be careful of that. With those ones, I accept that, okay, if the house burned down, the house burns down. I've got insurance, so what? I can take that risk or whatever consequence, so it doesn't latch and create that cycle. However, if I went back into checking, even with that belief, it would still very quickly fire up that cycle, and I would end up in a position where I could get back into that checking cycle. I haven't done that for probably over a decade, but you've always got to be aware. You've got to treat yourself almost like if you're an alcoholic. You've got a sort of an addiction to certainty, and you're always looking for that. Let's have a look here. Just find those questions where I was. How to handle the fear of forgetting how to move or lose control of your body? Would that be sensory motor OCD? No. No, that wouldn't. That's just a fear of some kind of movement related. It's just one particular thing that it's latched to. So yeah, it would definitely be. You'd have to look at what the fear is associated with why losing control of your body would be so scary. What you're frightened of if that were to occur, because that's what will be the problem at the core there. It's the same with anything. If you're ever stuck with an OCD, just look at what thing you're frightened of, what thing is at the forefront of it, fueling it. That's always the thing. Smile. I've been told off for this recently, actually, in the groups. People say that I never smile enough in the Instagram lives. I'm consciously trying to remember it now. Well, I'll tell you the reason for that. There is actually a reason about that. Is because in our lives, we don't walk around smiling everywhere. Even if we're pretty happy, we don't walk around smiling all the time. But in society, we've got this sort of culture where we believe that, you need to be smiling, especially in sort of lines of work like what I'm doing. People think, you need to be smiling, you need to be smiling all the time. Well, that's not true at all, because you will see people that are very, very smiley and all loads of posts with saying about be happy and sort of over the top smiling. And that's not real. That's not reality. Those people I'm more sort of concerned about, because that's sort of put on. In life, humans don't do that. Humans go around just living life and not walking down the street constantly smiling. And when I'm doing Instagram Lives, I'm often thinking about, apart from when I'm laughing, maybe then smiling, but I'm often thinking about how to answer the questions, and it's usually quite technical. And when you deal with OCD, it's pretty full on, because you're working with people that are obviously in a situation that's very difficult, and they're in a situation where they're really struggling. And I can relate to that journey, having been in it myself. So with that circumstances, I'm always trying to think about how to answer it. And when you're answering things on social media, it's such a tricky environment, especially in this era, because remember, I'm 35, so I have to adjust to these times. But like, if you say one thing wrong, you can get 10 comments just come up, and you might not have said something wrong, but something gets interpreted wrong, and it's a bloody nightmare today with those kinds of scenarios. So you do have to think these things through. So yeah, smiling when laughing about things, but otherwise, I've never been too concerned about feeling that you have to it's obligatory to smile. If you just go through your life and enjoy your life and do what you want, you don't have to put on any sort of fake emotions to accommodate society in any format. And I think a lot of people do that. And if you look at with me, and if you follow this account, everything I do is pretty realistic and pretty rational, and looking at things in reality, how they are. And I think in everything we've just got to live our lives as we best can, and realistically. And a lot of the time, especially today, if you just scroll through social media, I mean, if you look at loads of life coaches and so on, it's just about living completely in the now, empower your life to the full, which is a very important part, but then people go completely overboard on it. You can't just walk around completely absorbed in the now, like smiling from ear to ear, like just ecstatic energy all day long. It's not realistic. People don't do that. People will do a bit of it, but it's irrational to do that. And there is a rational on the upside too, where people will put on too much, and that's something that is seen, and you see that a lot today. And so that's what I think. I think you should just be yourself, be realistic about things, and don't feel that you have to keep up to any appearances or anything. But yes, thank you for that concern there. I will take that on board. What does being okay with the concept of settling mean? Well, settling is in relation to anything. It's in relation to our OCD. It's in relation to anything in relation to goals in life, business, careers, family life, anything. So settling would refers to if people are scared of what if they get comfortable and then they don't push themselves further, or what if they get comfortable with a partner that they don't like. And what if that partner's the life that they have, they could have a far better life if they pushed themselves more and didn't get comfortable. In reality, it's not awful, okay? It's not awful. It's not terrible, even if you do settle, okay? A lot of people do settle, and a lot of people, especially in this era to get today, we are so about making sure we're living the perfect life, and it's so much on appearances that people in the past wouldn't have been like that. Grandparents would have stayed together through difficult times and made do through relationships. If something had gone wrong in the relationship, they'd have stayed together and worked it out. Even if one of them had cheated on the other one, they'd have found some way to make the relationship work. Nowadays, it's very much on appearance and making sure that you've got the best life and everyone sees that your life is the best, and you're living it to the full and you're making all the right decisions. So unrealistic. Yes, you do have to do that and you have to push yourself and change things, of course you do, but at the same time, don't get over the top about that, where you're completely focused on making sure that you are comparing everything. People with OCD will go unbelievable on comparing. They will compare every aspect of the relationship, every aspect of the physical relationship, what everything feels like, down to where they'll be comparing every experience. Am I happy enough drinking this cup of tea? Am I happy enough doing this, that, and the other? And it just gets completely out of hand, because humans don't live like that. Humans go through the day just going through a day normally and not comparing every single thing that's going on. It's too tiring. We just have to sort of roll with it. Most of our days spent through habits anyway. All of our days are many habits that we've built up we're not even thinking of. From when you get up to when you get onto your phone, when you get in the shower, this is all automatic. You're doing the same thing every day, but you're not even thinking what you're doing most of the time. So a lot of it. And then it depends on your argument of free will, because then that comes into it as well. Then you've got a situation where you're going around very much you could argue that we haven't got any control at all, which is then a good existential spin for OCD, existential OCD. And the free will one used to catch me a lot, but that will take us off on topic, veering down that avenue like I did this afternoon. Let's have a look here. Is there a theme on OCD about forgetting how to move or eat? Yeah, well, that would be fear of not being able to eat because of some sort of, probably relating to dying or something like that. If you forget how to eat, you could die. If you forget how to move, you could be sedentary and staying in the house. There'll be a reason that you're scared of that. For relationship OCD, watch my YouTube video that I posted, I think it was yesterday, a link to it on Instagram stories, but you can find it on YouTube. An in detail look at relationship OCD. You can have a look at that one, it's a good one. Thoughts feel real, and recently I doubt I have got OCD. Look, OCD is going to have to feel as real as it possibly can get. If it didn't feel real, it wouldn't be the disorder it is, because everyone would just go, oh, that feels like OCD, forget it. But it's not like that in reality. And in reality, OCD's got to feel as real as it can, real as it can possibly be to get our attention. That's what it has to do. So none of my things bothered me because I just thought, oh, it's probably OCD. I thought that was the bloody truth that was about to be happening, and that was going to happen in my life. So yeah, you want to watch that. How old are you? 35. I don't really ruminate much anymore, but I feel the fear is still there in my head, trapped. Should I just continue to accept thoughts, or have I reached the core fear? Well, but I feel that if the fear still feels like it's in your head, trapped, you're obviously scared of something. You might be scared of it being trapped, or you're scared of something relating to it, the thought itself, or thoughts being present forever, maybe. So we'd have to look at what it is specifically there. Could you talk about sexual obsessions? Lots of different ones, so maybe a YouTube video. Yeah, I will cover that. POCD, harm, other sort of OCDs relating to that, harm-related sexual OCD and so on. I will cover that in a topic. I don't answer every single question on here because I have to go through quite a few. I'm not forgetting. A lot of the topics that I browse over in this list is because I've covered them before in their own topics, like COVID. I've covered a COVID OCD on a video, so you can see that if you go on my YouTube channel. How do you know if it's ROCD or your intuition? You don't. You've got to get used to not knowing with ROCD. The problem is people are constantly thinking, I need to know all the time, and that's what causes the problem. I need to know, or I might be wasting time. It's about accepting wasting time as well. If you watch that ROCD video, I think it goes into all that. That question about I obsess about too many good thoughts, I get overwhelmed, losing the flow, and that almost always ruins it. How to stop this habit? I don't really understand that question specifically. That seems like you're trying to control thoughts and trying to measure which ones are good, which ones are bad, and trying to get that all balanced out in your head, which is not a process you're going to be able to do. That internal control and sort of zooming in on everything is what will be causing the problem. For that boyfriend question, if it's relating to our OCD, watch that video that I just referenced before as well. Feeling like I can't breathe or having a panic attack. I've got a panic attack video that's on YouTube, but in relation to feeling like you can't breathe, what's the worst that's going to happen? It's often a relation to a fear of death, as in with all the health OCDs, fear that you're going to die, and the physical symptoms will get worse and then something will happen. You've got to take that one day at a time, 1 second at a time, and just take the risk. Maybe you do die, maybe you do just pass out, and take that risk. That's a risk that I would take if I ever felt physical anxiety symptoms again. It's not like I've never feel physical anxiety symptoms. Sometimes do, I get them sometimes in the night. Rare these days, but they sometimes will come on just out of nowhere, which Claire Weeks, one of the anxiety pioneers, talks a lot about that. How sort of years later, she'd get an anxiety rush in the middle of the night that would wake her up. You can't control that. It's probably in the subconscious somewhere, or we don't need to delve into subconscious, but something there, some part of the dream maybe that sort of heightened a sensation, an old remembered sensation in the brain in relation to anxiety, and then created a physical response, or hay fever. That's not related to that question, but I'm saying, well, actually that is related to that question, because there is an area of that. When I used to have very bad hay fever, when I had anxiety, it was so bad, my hay fever. I mean, I get not great hay fever anyway. It sort of depends. It's some years it's all right, some years it's different. But basically, with hay fever, when I used to have really bad anxiety, the hay fever used to be like a sort of asthma. I used to find it really hard to breathe, and sometimes in the night, because it used to get worse at night, when I used to get into bed, I would literally be sort of feeling like my chest was really tight and felt like I couldn't breathe, and it used to scare me a lot. I used to think that was definitely going to happen, until I started taking the risk and realised that I never did die, and I've just got to roll with it each night and see what happens. Health anxiety, to really get under it, one of the best things is learning to embrace death, learning to accept that. Once you really accept that, it really gets under it. But it takes a while to do that, to really understand that and to feel that. Backdoor spikes and anxiety, fear of anxiety is not an indicator of wrongdoing or anything. So if you feel anxiety, or you don't feel anxiety, it's no reference. People often think that, oh my God, that means I do want to do that because I don't feel anxious. No, it doesn't. Look, I don't feel anxious about all the different things I'm talking about because I've got unconditional self-acceptance and other acceptance. Not all the time, but it's usually there. And so because of that, I'm at peace with the things it brings up. Well, I don't then go, oh my God, what if I did that? Because I can accept that. So it doesn't bring up that response, but it's easy to see how you can get into that cycle. It's a very, very easy trap to fall into. I'm not sure if I covered backdoor spikes on YouTube. I might have. If not, I will cover them specifically, because there's a lot of things relating to that scare people, especially in reference to POCD and sexual harm related OCD. Especially with groinal responses and so on, when people are going along like normal, and then suddenly it comes on out of nowhere. They think it must be real because they just felt that. So I will cover those in a separate topic. Any other questions you guys want to ask? I'm here for a little bit longer and I will cover those now. I can't cover broad questions like how do I get rid of OCD thoughts. OCD anxiety about doing something wrong and losing job. House, although not done anything wrong. You've got to accept losing your house. You've got to accept losing your job. It's not the end of the world. Plenty of humans have lost their houses and lost their jobs and still lived the other side of it. So it's about seeing that that's not awful, and that you can stand that, and using comparisons to other far worse things. So you can look at that from sort of a gratitude perspective and help change your perspective on that feared scenario. I didn't say that OCD never stops. I said that OCD underneath it, like with alcoholism, someone who's an alcoholic, always been alcoholic day to day, they don't suffer the pathways in the brain in that situation. So their quality of life is no different to anybody else. But in terms of being sort of predisposition to that OCD anxiety cycle, that will be there. Suffering won't. Total acceptance of thoughts will help with reassurance, absolutely. As you make more peace, you will feel less obligated to reassure, but you do need to cut reassurance out because it's a sort of physical indicator to the brain that something is wrong. How to feel with those, some of those questions are similar there. How to deal with the anger of not feeling in control emotionally, and to when you're having setbacks and so on. You've got to ride it out. It's like a roller coaster ride, lots of peaks and troughs as it goes along. So you've just got to roll along with it and expect down days to come, followed by your best days and vice versa. So it's going to be part of the ride that you're on. And just sort of roll along with that with a one day at a time approach. Again, the same as would be done with addictions. Just taking it along like that, because otherwise what you're doing too often is you are looking for a controlled sense of recovery where you've got it locked, finished, done, and that's the end of it, and then you feel in that position, and that's not going to be how it is. You need to get used to its ups and downs. All right, guys, I will see you on the next Instagram Live. I'll see you then. Take it easy.